Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. I'm Jamie, that's Dave, that's Adam. Before we get into the players that we like but don't necessarily love, Eagles coach Nick Sirianni says, quote, "It's an unknown right now about Jalen Hurts playing this week against the Jets." Now, he's listed as questionable. All signs point to him playing, but the fact that Sirianni says this just might make you think about starting somebody else, at least have an alternate plan just in case we get to Sunday and Jalen Hurts is not there. All right, let's talk about the players that we like but don't necessarily love. These are guys that you're going to see in our rankings as starters. You're probably going to have them in your lineups as starters, but we have a little bit of concern based on either some things that have been happening or about the potential matchups. So let's talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Dave, a guy who came back after a 5-game absence with an ankle injury, taking on a Broncos defense following a bye. But the Broncos have been good against the run lately. Can Clyde Edwards-Helaire come through like he did the last time we saw him, where he scored a touchdown and got fined for taunting on that touchdown?
Yeah, and it was a cool play. It was an option toss from Mahomes, and it worked out great. But the question is, can he keep scoring? He doesn't seem to be a big factor in the passing game, certainly not what we expected him to be. And will he get a lot of work? More importantly, is Kansas City going to suddenly realize, hey, we need to run the ball a little bit better if we're going to stay competitive and win football games? I know that sounds silly. They should want to win football games with Patrick Mahomes. He's an amazing quarterback. But you've seen Mahomes play this year. He's been very up and down, and so has Edwards-Helaire. Without that guarantee that they're going to give him a lot of work, and against a Broncos defense that hasn't allowed a rushing touchdown to a running back in 4 straight games, it makes me a little bit nervous to trust him. The problem is that there are a lot of other running backs out there that I am very nervous to trust. So he's ahead of all the guys that are splitting, like the running backs in Denver, a lot of the running backs in Philly, New England. You see it on the list here. So it really comes down to who else do I really have to compare him against. I'll say this. Alexander Mattison, easy start ahead of him. Jamal Williams, easy start. We've talked about some other running backs on the show that if they get the opportunity, like a Sony Michel, easy guy to start. If Miles Sanders is the main guy for Philadelphia, easy start ahead of him too. But I think that there is a little bit of downside to him, and that's why I'm not ranking him even higher than I am.
Sure. I guess the hope would be is that he comes off his bye. He's as close to 100% as he's been all season. Prior to the injury that he sustained earlier this year, he had 2 straight 100-yard games. So with the way teams are playing the Chiefs, which is part of the reason why Mahomes has struggled, they're allowing them to run. And we saw Darrell Williams have some success. Hopefully Clyde Edwards-Helaire has some success. But as you see, we are not necessarily all in on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so understandable why you might have some concerns. I have similar concerns with David Montgomery. The workload has been fantastic for him, but he has not scored a touchdown since week 4. Now, part of that is missing 4 games with the knee injury, but since he's come back, he has not played great against Pittsburgh in week 9, against Baltimore week 11. The more concerning one was against Detroit in week 12 because we know that matchup is fantastic. 20 total touches in that game and did not find the end zone, only 74 total yards in that matchup. So he's not doing a great job and not catching the ball as much. Did have 3 catches against Detroit, but that's the high since coming back from the injury. Adam, when you look at this matchup against the Cardinals, they've been up and down against the run, a little bit worse since J.J. Watt has gone down. Can this be the game where David Montgomery breaks through?
I hope for his sake that Andy Dalton starts because I think that will help him in the passing game. He had 3 catches last week with Dalton under center. Justin Fields doesn't throw as often, doesn't throw to his running backs very often. So I think that would help his case. I don't think he has a huge game here. One thing I noticed that for the Cardinals, they don't have a great run defense, but they don't see a lot of carries, and that's really broken out in their wins and their losses. They haven't lost a lot of games, but when they win, which is most weeks, and I think it'll be this week, running backs struggle to get a lot of volume. So it'll still probably be about 15 carries for David Montgomery, but what does that mean? Is he even going to get to 60 yards? 70 maybe if he's lucky on those 15. I just don't see him having a big game. I almost put him on my list, but I think I put him on my list last week or the week before, and I feel that way every single week about Montgomery. The facts are the facts. He has had 2 good games this year, and it's been a while since he's been good, and the offense is really not good at all.
All right, so we'll find out if he can deliver. Again, you're starting him, you're starting Edwards-Helaire, but just a little bit concerning that David Montgomery has another down game, which is why he's on this list. Let's talk about a guy for you, Adam, that you're concerned about, and that's Brandon Cooks. Now, again, we're going to find out if he's able to play, dealing with this injury, illness, non-COVID-19 related, so let's assume that he's out there. So can this be one of his boom games, or is this one of his games, or is this one of his disappearing acts?
I think he's going to have a pretty good game. It's a good matchup. Now, the last 2 weeks, the Colts' pass defense has been a lot better, so let's give them credit against Buffalo and Tampa Bay. But I think he's going to have a good game. He's due. He's too good of a player, but it's 3 games in a row with Tyrod Taylor back. Brandon Cooks has not even reached 60 yards. He did have a touchdown against the Jets in Week 12. But yeah, I'm nervous. I'm just nervous about a bad passing game, about a guy who's been streaky throughout his career. we've talked about a lot of wide receivers so far in the show, like Van Jefferson and Kenny Golladay and players like that. Cooks is definitely ahead of them. I'd even start him ahead of Michael Pittman. So I like Brandon Cooks, but no, I do not love him because the production hasn't warranted a heart emoji.
Yeah, and I'm worried about the target volume. We've seen 7 or fewer targets in 4 of his last 5 games. Remember how he opened the year and he was getting targeted like crazy, first from Tyrod Taylor, then by Davis Mills. That's been dialed back quite a bit. I wonder if this is a game where they can't afford to do that, and they've got to let him go. And we've seen a wide receiver get at least 17 PPR points in 7 of the last 9 games that Indianapolis has played. Stephon Diggs was one of those wide receivers. That gave me some optimism to go ahead and move Brandon Cooks into my top 20 at wide receiver. I think he's got a good chance to have a good game.
I hope so. I really hope so. I hope garbage time matters for him here because most likely they're chasing points based on what Jonathan Taylor should do in this matchup. Adam, let's talk about another guy you're concerned about, which I'm a little confused because this is a great opportunity for Brandon Ayuk, but why are you putting him on this list?
I am shocked that I put him here too, but I guess I had sort of forgotten just how good the Seahawks pass defense has been. Holy cow, they have been terrific. I'll try to get the exact numbers here against Seattle, but they have been pretty locked down for about 8 straight weeks now, and they give up the 8th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. So I like Ayuk. I hope he can score. But now they've got the 4th best red zone defense in the NFL, Seattle, so they've been able to keep teams out of the end zone. Here we go. I was looking for the stat. Only 1 touchdown to a wide receiver in their last 7 games. And McLaurin was a huge bust last week. So I decided that I was going to mostly forget about that and remember just how good Brandon Ayuk was when Deebo Samuel was out last year. He was one of the best wide receivers in fantasy. That is not an exaggeration. So I do think he's a quality start. But I am noticing this Seahawks defense. They give up the 7th fewest points in the NFL. They are good. They are really good against the pass.
They are good against the pass, and we'll see if they can, stop what has been a limited passing attack. But we know when they target their receivers, and this is going to be the main focal point, clearly without Deebo Samuel on the field, they tend to do well. And Ayuk, has 6 or more targets 3 of his last 4 games. He's come through in 3 of his last 4 games when he has seen 6 or more targets. Last year in Seattle, when he was in that hot streak, 8 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown. So let's hope history repeats itself. I'm excited about Brandon Ayuk. Let's talk about another guy here that you could be a little bit concerned about, and that's Michael Pittman. And so kind of ties into how we expect the Colts and Texans game to go. Pittman's been a disappointment because we've seen Jonathan Taylor taking over this offense. The target opportunity has not been there for him like it was earlier this season when they were sort of trying to figure out their offense. We also have T.Y. Hilton back. That's been bad for Michael Pittman. So game flow matters. Opportunities matter. Michael Pittman, not the same type of fantasy receiver that he was earlier this year. But, Dave, you're looking at a guy here that is still in such a great matchup, great opportunity.
It is a huge opportunity, and we've seen the Texans defense give up numbers to wide receivers, 7 touchdowns to wide receivers in their last 5 games. How about 7 catches to a wide receiver in 4 of the last 5 games by the Houston Texans? But he had 10 targets last week in what we thought was another favorable situation, and it turned out it was a favorable situation for the Colts passing offense. It just didn't turn out to be very good for Michael Pittman. That's frustrating, and I'm wondering if this week Indianapolis doesn't have to throw as much. We saw Carson Wentz when he played against the Texans earlier this year, didn't have to throw very much in that game. And Pittman had less than 50 yards. I believe he had 3 targets in the game. Jonathan Taylor went wild. I think that's something that could happen again this week. So I'm a little nervous to trust Michael Pittman as anything more than a low-end number 2 fantasy wide receiver. DeAndre Hopkins hasn't been on a football field in a month. I'll start him ahead of Pittman.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think you're right. I would do the same thing as well. And T.Y. Hilton, he just destroys this team. It's just crazy, his numbers. He's played them 19 times in his career. The stats are ridiculous. 101 catches, 1,798 yards, 11 touchdowns on 160 targets. So maybe he has another big game against the Texans. Those games will probably be few and far between for Hilton rest of season. But Pittman, hard to get away from what his upside could be based on this matchup. All right, Dave, T. Higgins coming off arguably his best game of the season, certainly his first touchdown since week 2. Can he continue to be a go-to guy for Jamar Chase? And I think one thing that's interesting to note, Higgins and Chase in the games that they played together has more targets.
Higgins has more than Chase. Yep. Yeah, that is interesting. And I wonder if something's going on because Jamar Chase really hasn't been amazing over the last month or so. He's had a good touchdown catch in there, but otherwise really just hasn't been that dominant type of receiver that we were calling him. We made a big ballyhoo all over Jamar Chase. And now it's T. Higgins who had the big game last week. I'm nervous about him doing it again. I don't know how consistent he is. Yes, he's a good perimeter receiver. He's starting to win those jump balls that he was losing out against. Looks like I'm the high guy on him just based on volume against the Chargers. And this is a Chargers pass defense that has allowed 100 yards to a receiver in 3 of their last 4 games. But that was when their cornerbacks were banged up. I think they're going to be healthier now, and I also think this is going to be a game where Cincinnati can take a conservative approach, kind of like what they did last week, and they just ran the ball like crazy. Now, that worked out great for Higgins last week, but I don't know if Lightning can strike twice. I'm a little nervous about him, but I would still start him ahead of Michael Pittman.
I think the thing you got to hope for the Bengals passing attack is Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense to show up early, and then they're chasing points, and then that leads to more volume for Joe Burrow, who's been 17 fantasy points or less for 3 straight games, and hopefully it works out for both of these receivers, and we get into what could be a fun shootout based on 2 of the best young quarterbacks that we have in the AFC and certainly the NFL. We thought one of the young tight ends would be great for fantasy players this season, and that has not materialized fully yet for Kyle Pitts. There's still a huge ceiling for him to come in his career and might have a full breakout season toward the end of this year. But Adam, for this week, taking on a Bucs defense where he's just been bad for fantasy managers lately, and I think if the name was different and the expectations were different, we'd be dropping Kyle Pitts at this point. So can this be the week that he delivers?
No, I don't think so. You're absolutely right. He'd be droppable if he were not Kyle Pitts, a guy we took as a top 5 or top 6 tight end, top 4 in some cases. And you have to think about him. You have to think about TJ Hockenson differently now. They are not must-start guys. I would start Foster Moreau over Kyle Pitts. I would start Gerald Everett over Kyle Pitts. You love the talent, but look at this Tampa Bay secondary and how well they've been playing. And what do you think they're going to do to that Falcons offensive line, which is clearly one of the worst in the NFL? So, yeah, Pitts is going to struggle, I think. Tampa Bay's getting Carlton Davis back. They got Sean Murphy-Bunting back 2 games ago, so they're getting healthy at the right time. And this is not an easy matchup, in my opinion. And if you don't have an easy matchup, I don't really see much of an incentive to start Kyle Pitts.
Very tough to trust. Again, it's fear of missing out that this is going to be the week. Heath talked about that earlier. You see his ranking of Kyle Pitts at number 7. He thinks this is going to be the week that he finally delivers. You brought it up, Dave, about the red zone opportunities. It just hasn't been there for him. So tough to trust Kyle Pitts still, but hopefully at some point we get that breakout game.